Chapter 1. A business trip before New Year's. I rushed back to my mother-in-law's house on New Year's Eve, wanting to give my wife, Victoria Donovan, a surprise. Unexpectedly, when I opened the door, I saw her in an intimate embrace with her first love. I demanded to know what they were doing, but my wife just accused me. Ethan and I weren't doing anything. "Can you stop making such a fuss? It's true what they say, a dirty mind sees dirt in everything." My mother-in-law was even more blunt. "It's the holidays. Don't be so petty. The most important thing is that everyone is happy." I laughed coldly and turned away to call my secretary. "Send Victoria Donovan a termination notice after the holidays. My company has no place for that kind of trash." "Didn't they say happiness was the most important thing?" "Well, this is what would make me happy now. Honey, I'm home, look." I pushed the door open, my hands full of bags, but the words died in my throat. I looked up and saw my wife, Victoria Donovan, with her arms wrapped around her first love, Ethan Carter. Her head was resting on his shoulder. They were holding each other closely, blissful smiles on their faces. Instantly, my mind went blank with a roaring sound. Just a week ago, I was consumed with guilt because my business trip meant I couldn't go home with my wife for the holidays. Every day I was away, I was either texting her apologies or worrying about what gifts to bring back for her family. I had worked frantically just to get back in time to celebrate the new year with Victoria. The bag slipped from my hands and crashed to the floor. I couldn't stop myself from asking in a low, heavy voice, "Victoria, is this the big New Year's gift you prepared for me?" The moment Victoria saw me, the smile on her face froze. She instinctively tried to explain. She had just opened her mouth when Ethan Carter cut in. "Sincere, don't misunderstand. Victoria just had a low blood sugar spell, that's why." I shot him a glare. "Does anyone here need you to speak? There's a room full of food. Wasn't that enough to help her? Or can her own parents not support her? Did she have to fall into your arms?" After my sharp retorts, Ethan Carter immediately fell silent. He lowered his head and quietly pulled his hand from Victoria's. He looked like a poor, deeply wronged victim. Victoria noticed his change in demeanor almost instantly. The woman who had been flustered and at a loss just moments ago suddenly transformed. She put her hands on her hips, her voice hardening. "Sincere Harrison, can't you speak properly?" Ethan didn't do anything. "Why are you being so aggressive?" "It's true, a person with a dirty heart sees everything as dirty." As Victoria spoke, she placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder, patting it gently, as if she were comforting a child. Watching her, right in front of me, making no effort to hide her affection for Ethan Carter, my body, which hadn't even warmed up from the cold outside, grew colder, and my heart sank with it. I had known for a while that there were signs of Victoria and Ethan rekindling their old flame, but she had never gone this far. At least I could still lie to myself, tell myself that maybe I was being too sensitive, that I was overthinking things. But now, since she couldn't even be bothered to hide it anymore, there was no need for me to make excuses for her. No wonder Victoria hadn't thrown a fit this time about me not spending the holidays with her, as she usually would. Instead, she had agreed so readily. She even told me that work was the most important thing, that I should focus on my business and not worry about anything else. At the time, I had wondered why Victoria had such a sudden change of heart. It turns out she was planning to bring Ethan Carter home all along. A person you bring home for New Year's Eve dinner. Could they be just an ordinary friend? "You had this planned all along, didn't you?" Even though I already knew the answer in my heart, I forced myself to ask the question. I had been making excuses, refusing to give up hope. I wanted to hear the answer from her own lips. Now Victoria stood before me, looking at me steadily, without blinking, without any hesitation. Yes, Chapter 2. It was as if something shattered in my ears. Although it was the answer I expected, my heart clenched in sharp pain. In that instant, 100 emotions washed over me. I didn't know if it was the relief of finally getting an answer, or the sorrow that after all I had given, I still couldn't win Victoria's true heart. But none of it mattered anymore. I took a deep breath, quickly composing myself. "Fine, Victoria. You've got guts. Before I could finish, Victoria's parents, Richard and Margaret, walked out from the kitchen. We had been arguing for a few moments, and it wasn't quiet. The only explanation was that they never intended to intervene from the start. They only came out now because they saw I was getting angry and were afraid their precious daughter would be upset. They were just trying to stop things from escalating. Richard Donovan placed a bottle of wine on the table. He patted my shoulder, adopting the posture of an elder. Sincere, as men, we need to be more magnanimous. Besides, I know my own daughter. Victoria would never do anything to betray you. I sneered. I'm guessing Victoria never told you about her and Ethan Carter's glorious history, did she? I listed them one by one, from their countless secret meetings to them spending my money on a trip abroad behind my back. They've crossed the line of intimacy. After I finished, I watched Richard's reaction. After all, every word I said was a slap in his face, directly contradicting him. But he didn't question Victoria, nor did he scold her. Instead, with a calm face, he poured himself a glass of wine and drank it. That doesn't prove anything. Besides, you already knew about all this, didn't you? Since you could accept it then, why bring it up on New Year's and make everyone uncomfortable? When two people live together, who doesn't have a few faults? I was trembling with anger. I had discovered these things, but that didn't mean I could tolerate them. It was Victoria who, under the pretext of getting medical treatments to improve her fertility, met with Ethan Carter at the hospital again and again. When I found out, she knelt and swore they were just fellow patients. Nothing more. My mother-in-law, Margaret, had even vouched for them, saying Ethan was her godson and she was present every time they met. She emphasized that Victoria was going through IVF treatments because she desperately wanted to have a child for me, and Ethan's presence was just a coincidence. For their sake, I chose to believe them, and I promised them I wouldn't tell anyone, to protect their reputations. Only now did I realize that the entire Donovan family knew about this. I had been so naive, completely fooled by this family. Come to think of it, Margaret had been dissatisfied with me even before the wedding. No matter how I tried to please her or how expensive the gifts I bought, she always looked at me with disdain. She even secretly encouraged Victoria to get back with her ex. Now it seemed they were likely complicit in Victoria's affair. My anger turned into a bitter laugh. Fine, so it's all my fault? If I had mistresses left and right, would you still be talking with this attitude? No one in the room was affected by my emotional outburst. On the contrary, Margaret Donovan, as if nothing was wrong, started her usual chatter. If you ask me, Victoria's not wrong in this, and you're not wrong either. We all know Ethan, he's not a stranger. It's the holidays. Don't be so petty. The most important thing is that everyone is happy. Chapter 3. Victoria sat in a chair with her arms crossed, watching everything with a cool detachment. She didn't say a single word in my defense. Instead, she echoed her mother. Exactly. It was supposed to be a happy day, and it's not even a big deal. You had to go and ruin it. Such a jinx. She frowned deeply, not even bothering to look at me again. When we first fell in love, no matter how her family targeted me, she would always stand by my side without hesitation, arguing with her mother for me. When did it all change to this? It probably started 6 months ago, when Ethan Carter reappeared in her life. Her attitude towards me grew progressively colder, eventually becoming complete indifference. Even my simple greetings would be met with extreme dissatisfaction, as if I were trying to control her. When I wanted to be intimate, she would always find an excuse, saying she felt inadequate because she couldn't get pregnant and that I was putting too much pressure on her. I felt sorry for her and even reflected on my own behavior. How ridiculous. She didn't feel inadequate at all. She had already given her heart and body to another man. She was just saving herself for her true love. This disgraceful marriage should have ended long ago. Now that Victoria had finally said what was truly on her mind, I was curious to see just how happy the Donovan family could be without me. Fine, I'm leaving. My hand had just touched my suitcase. Ethan Carter's voice came from behind me. Sincere, don't be angry. You know Victoria, she just has that temper. Ethan, don't mind him. Let him go. He's a penniless orphan. Where can he possibly go? He lives off me, eats my food, a freeloader, and he thinks he's superior?" Victoria's tone was dripping with sarcasm, and her mother chimed in. "Exactly. Our family is so well off. It's only because Victoria has a kind heart that she was willing to settle for him. Let me tell you, Sincere, you'd better not be an insolent fool." I stopped in my tracks. I never thought that in their eyes I was so worthless. But I knew the truth. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough for Victoria. It was that Victoria wasn't good enough for me. Victoria and I had been together for 5 years, from our student days until now. She came into my world during my darkest and most painful time after both my parents passed away. She constantly comforted me, pulling me out of the gloom. During that period, as the sole heir to the family corporation, I had to deal with the schemes of business rivals and fight against the ill intentions of some of the older shareholders in the company. I was in a state of high tension every day. Only when I returned to campus and saw Victoria did I feel a moment of peace. Later, we entered the professional world. To prevent Victoria from feeling insecure about the gap in our statuses, I never told her about my true background. At first, she didn't care about those things and was happy to be with me. I brought her into one of my branch companies and gave her as many resources as possible, arranging for experienced people to mentor her. Victoria was ambitious and seized the opportunity, climbing the ladder with determination. In just 3 years, she went from being a fresh intern to the deputy manager of the branch. As her income grew, I could feel her starting to look down on me. But before Ethan Carter showed up, she at least kept up appearances. Now she was certain I couldn't live without her, so she decided to show her true colors. I had originally planned to promote her to be the head of the branch company after the new year. The news had already started to spread. I never expected things to change so quickly. Watching Victoria and her first love with their fingers intertwined, I fought back a wave of nausea. "Victoria, I'm giving you one last chance. Get on your knees and beg for my forgiveness right now, and I'll grant you a peaceful divorce." Before Victoria could respond, her mother rushed forward and slapped me hard across the face. "What kind of trash are you? Daring to act wild in my house. Divorce is fine. You leave with nothing, make way for Victoria's new marriage." I let out a sneer. They didn't want the chance I gave them. Then they couldn't blame me. I didn't look back. Just make sure you don't regret this. Chapter 4. Victoria thought I was making empty threats, her voice filled with disdain. "I'll say the same to you. Don't you dare regret this. Don't come crawling back to me like you always do. This time, I won't agree goodbye and good riddance." A smirk played on my lips. Without a moment's hesitation, I stepped out the door. Before I had even left the neighborhood, I called my secretary. "Send Victoria Donovan a termination notice after the holidays, and cut off all her resources from now on." After hanging up, I called a private car and returned to my own villa. Although my parents were gone, I still had a younger sister. For the past few years, Victoria had always insisted I spend the holidays with her family. She would constantly whisper in my ear, saying that since my parents were gone anyway, going to her home would help me make a good impression on her parents. I told her I had a sister, but she never took it to heart. She's an adult, not a child. We can just buy her a New Year's gift later. When I didn't say anything, she would persuade me further. "Come on, she can't cling to you forever. You're a married man now." Because of this, I hadn't spent a single New Year with my sister since marrying Victoria. My sister, however, was very understanding and never made a fuss about it. On the contrary, she always expressed her understanding. When the car pulled up to the villa, I saw that only my sister's room was lit in the entire house. Compared to the brightly lit villas around us, it looked truly desolate. A wave of guilt washed over me. I grabbed the food I had brought her favorites and knocked on her door. The moment Isabel Harrison saw me, her eyes lit up. "Brother, what are you doing back?" I asked her. "Where's the cook? Why didn't she make you something you like for the holiday?" Her eyes crinkled into crescents. "Having you here is enough. I just felt I didn't need much looking after, so I thought it would be better to let her go home and be with her family." She was still so kind, always thinking of others. I suppressed the lump in my throat and forced a smile for my sister. "All right, from now on, I'll spend every New Year with you." Isabel took out her phone and pulled me in for a selfie. She sent the photo to me, and I opened my phone to look. The notification bar prominently displayed a new post from a special attention contact. It was a family photo of Victoria, Ethan Carter, and her parents. The caption read, "The new year is for being with the people who matter most." I felt nothing. I saved the photo and focused on celebrating the new year with my sister. Chapter 5. On the first day back at work after the holidays, the company reopened. As expected, Victoria Donovan received her termination notice that day. When I arrived at the company in the afternoon, I heard a commotion coming from the stairwell as I passed by. Even through the door, I could hear Victoria's shrill voice, mixed with vile curses. "You bitch, I knew it. I knew there was a reason that good-for-nothing Sincere suddenly dared to talk to me like that. So he has someone on the side. You look so innocent, but all you do is seduce other people's men, you ill-bred brat, with no one. To raise you today, I'm going to teach you a lesson." I pushed the door open, and the scene inside sent me into a blind rage. Several men were holding my sister down on the floor, while Victoria was slapping her across the face. My sister's cheeks were already red and swollen. She had clearly been hit many times. Her tear-streaked face broke my heart. "Stop it, Victoria. Have you lost your mind?" I shoved Victoria aside and rushed to my sister's side. I knocked the men to the ground and checked on my sister's injuries. Victoria, whom I had pushed to the floor, screamed and turned her fury on me. "Sincere Harrison, how dare you do this to me for a mistress? What does she have that I don't? Is it just that she's younger? I was with you at that age too. Have you no heart?" My face darkened. "Have you had enough? She's my sister." I thought that by telling her this, Victoria might realize her mistake, but to my surprise, she just snorted disdainfully. "Who knows? You say she is, so she is." Her reaction made it clear she didn't believe me. I helped my sister up from the floor. After asking a few simple questions, I finally understood what had happened today. A few days ago during the holiday, I had mentioned to my sister that since she was a sophomore in college, it was time for her to start learning to handle some company business. So today, following my instructions, she came to the company early in the morning. After lunch, she took the elevator upstairs. She happened to run into Victoria, who had come to headquarters to plead her case. Victoria didn't know that I was the secret owner of this company, nor did she know that Isabel Harrison was my biological sister. She caused a scene at the company, claiming I was a man of low character and incompetent performance. She argued that I should be the one fired, not her. Hearing Victoria slander me, my sister instinctively defended me. But as soon as Victoria heard her call me brother, she immediately concluded that Isabel was my mistress. She ordered her men to drag my sister into the stairwell and beat her mercilessly, venting all her anger on her. My sister tried to explain, but Victoria wouldn't believe her. Not until I arrived and saw this scene. I clenched my fists and walked towards Victoria, step by step. Then I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. "This slap is for my sister." The loud smack echoed in the stairwell. Victoria looked at me in disbelief. "You dare to hit me?" I sneered. "Yes, I'm hitting you, Victoria Donovan. Get out of this company. Don't make me say it a second time." "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that I am the owner of this company. You're fired, and there is no possibility of reinstatement. Ever." Chapter 6. Hearing my words, Victoria showed no surprise. Instead, she gave a contemptuous laugh. You're worthy?" I had no energy to argue with her. I took my sister's hand and turned to leave, but Victoria reached out and blocked our path. "You think you can just leave?" "No way, since you've guessed my purpose for being here today. I can't let you ruin my plans." The men with her saw this and immediately surrounded us. I had only managed to slap Victoria because I had burst in so suddenly they were caught off guard. Now, if they were to get serious, and with my sister to protect, it would be difficult to break through. "Victoria, you will regret this." Two men held me tightly. Seeing Victoria raise her hand to my sister again, I screamed at her with all my might. Victoria paused and turned to look at me. Fine, I'll give you one more chance. I'd like to see how I'll regret it. She took out her phone and dialed a number. Instantly, her face changed to a fawning smile, her voice dripping with flattery. Mr. Shaw, this is Victoria Donovan. There's someone in the stairwell claiming to be the company's owner. Could you please come and help me see if this person is telling the truth? I had never seen Victoria act like this. The woman I remembered was always true to herself. I never thought that the help I thought I was giving her over the years had turned her into such a snob. This wasn't a small matter. So Julian Shaw arrived at the stairwell quickly to confirm my identity. He was one of the deputy managers at the head office. Coincidentally, I had always managed the company's affairs from behind the scenes. Except for occasional meetings with a few shareholders and the general manager, no one else in the company had ever seen me, let alone my sister, who was visiting the company for the first time today. Julian Shaw glanced at me hurriedly. This is the one impersonating the boss? I don't know him, I retorted. Have you ever seen the boss? No, but you... Julian Shaw looked me up and down. You don't look like you could be. Victoria walked up and kicked me hard in the chest. I knew it. If you were the company president, do you think I would have lived with you like that for 3 years? Sincere Harrison. Don't be so ridiculous. Is this your new way of finding an excuse to get back together with me? Well, I won't give you the satisfaction. Her sharp high heel kicked me so hard it hurt. Combined with the force she used, my vision went black. For a moment, I couldn't say a word. Julian Shaw reminded her. All right, don't take too long. The boss is about to arrive. I had to treat the general manager to a big dinner just for him to agree to introduce you. You need to seize this opportunity. Victoria nodded and bowed to Julian Shaw in thanks. Then her face changed as she turned and snapped at me. Don't ever bother me again, you're bad luck. She walked a few steps, then, as if still not satisfied, added, As soon as the courthouse opens, we're getting a divorce. I can't live this life with you anymore. Chapter 7. After 5 years together, Victoria and I had developed a certain understanding. In fact, I'd been thinking the same thing since the night I left her parents' house. I just felt there was no point in bringing it up when we couldn't act on it immediately. It was better to wait and avoid a lot of trouble. Now, seeing Victoria's resolute determination, I actually felt relieved. At least we wouldn't fight over the divorce, and she wouldn't entangle me any further. I helped my sister up and went to a nearby hospital to check on her condition. Seeing my sister's red, swollen eyes, my heart shattered. On the way, I kept apologizing to her. I'm sorry, it's my fault. I promise I'll protect you from now on and never let you be bullied like this again. My sister patted my hand, comforting me in return. It's okay, brother. I don't blame you. Fortunately, the checkup confirmed that my sister had no serious injuries. I had the driver take her home and then return to the company alone. I couldn't wait to give my sister the justice she deserved. This time, I ran into Ethan Carter at the company's entrance. Seeing me, he smiled and greeted me. What a coincidence, Sincere. You work here too? I'm here to pick up Victoria. He was clearly trying to provoke me, to taunt me to my face. But now that I no longer cared about Victoria, he naturally wouldn't get the reaction he wanted. I didn't even bother to give him a second glance. Is that so? That's nice. I wish you two a long and happy life together. My blessing left him speechless. It wasn't until the elevator doors were about to close that he revealed his true colors, unable to accept it. Sincere Harrison, Victoria will be mine, I sighed. What a naive, foolish boy. Everything Victoria had now was because of me. Without me, she wouldn't be the Victoria she was today. He thought that by replacing me, he could have the life he wanted with her. He was dreaming. Meanwhile, in the conference room, people were still whispering among themselves. Victoria was fidgeting, and after much hesitation, she couldn't resist asking the general manager about my whereabouts. The general manager was also puzzled. Mr. Harrison has never been late, and he didn't send any notice about postponing the meeting today. I'm not sure what's going on. Victoria keenly picked up on the surname. Just moments ago, she hadn't believed a word I said. Now, faced with this situation, she finally began to have some self-doubt. What's our boss's name? Sincere Harrison. As soon as the general manager said the name, Victoria's face turned deathly pale. She muttered to herself, could it be that what he said was true? No, impossible, it must be a coincidence. It has to be. As I walked into the conference room, I happened to see her trying to maintain her composure. The chatter in the room came to an abrupt halt. All eyes turned to me. Victoria's gaze followed everyone else's. The moment she saw me, she froze. I scanned the room. For today's meeting, there is someone here who shouldn't be. Please leave. Victoria quickly snapped back to reality, stood up with a smile, and said, Mr. Harrison, this is the branch's performance report for the past year. She walked to my side and placed the file in front of me. As her hand slid off the edge of the table, it brushed along my leg under the desk. I frowned and moved away. Didn't we just go over this at the end of the year? If there's nothing else, you can go. Victoria hesitated, wanting to say more. Finally, she decided she had to seize this opportunity. Mr. Harrison, I just received my termination notice this afternoon. If I've done something wrong, I hope you can give me another chance. Chapter 8. That won't be necessary. You are not a good fit for my company. Mr. Harrison, I'm begging you. Can we please resolve this privately? Victoria lowered her voice. She wasn't stupid. She knew that with her abilities, the salary she was earning was the peak of what she could get. Not to mention, if she were fired, her career prospects in the industry would be virtually non-existent. Not only would her current comfortable life burst like a bubble, but all the hard work and suffering of the past few years would be for nothing. Of course, she couldn't accept that. But after the events of the last few days, I had seen her true colors completely. There was no way I would soften my stance. Seeing my resolute attitude and that there was no room for negotiation, Victoria could no longer care about saving face. She shrieked at me. Sincere Harrison, you're really going to use your position to get revenge on me, aren't you? If you can't point out a single problem with my work, I'll go to the media and expose you. Victoria had no clear understanding immediately. After the meeting, I made a special trip to the manager's office. When Julian Shaw saw me and heard the general manager introduce me, his face turned deathly pale, and his voice trembled. Mr. Harrison, I really didn't know you are a magnanimous man. Please forgive me. I patted his shoulder. It must not have been easy to get to this position. Thank you for all the years you've spent in this role, taking a salary for doing nothing. After colluding with people like Victoria for so long, you should take a rest. Last year, there were some discrepancies in the company's accounts. I had my secretary and a few trusted shareholders thoroughly investigate the matter. Julian Shaw was one of the suspects. Just now, my secretary had sent me conclusive evidence. Julian Shaw had embezzled public funds, and he had gotten his deputy manager position through connections. He had no real ability, and now, before I could even come for him, he had run right into me. I threw the evidence in Julian Shaw's face. He glanced through it roughly, his legs gave out, and he knelt directly on the floor. Mr. Harrison, I was wrong. It was my first time. I was temporarily blinded by money. I ignored his pleas. The company will be sending you a letter from our lawyers in a few days. You'd better repay the embezzled funds as soon as possible. Otherwise, I don't need to tell you the consequences. He sat there on the floor, stunned, like a puppet, completely motionless. 3 days passed quickly. As I expected, Victoria's project did not succeed. Chapter 9. That evening, I was cooking my sister's favorite dishes. Victoria, having somehow found out the villa's address, showed up at our door. She wailed and cried outside, attracting the attention of numerous neighbors. Sincere, I was wrong. Please don't ignore me, okay? You know me, what I said before were just angry words. Please don't take them to heart. Yes, I had always known Victoria's temper. This also meant it wasn't the first time she had hurt me with such words and actions. I opened the door, using my body to block the entrance, preventing her from stepping inside. When Victoria saw me, her eyes lit up. Then she lowered her head, looking like a deeply wronged victim. Sincere, we were together for 5 years. Are you really going to push me to a dead end over one little conflict? The onlookers whispered among themselves, all of them blaming me. I snorted, tearing down her false mask. Victoria, you were the one who cheated first. You were the one who brought another man home. I put up with you for 6 months, giving you chance after chance. Wasn't that enough? Serving you wasn't enough. I also had to endure your whole family's attitude, making it seem like I was the one who wronged you. You failed to land the project. That's your own problem. You should accept the loss. Also, I wasn't just saying it in anger. The lawyer will have the divorce papers drafted by tomorrow. Let's get this over. With Victoria had thought that by playing pitiful and with the help of others' sympathies, I would soften up like before. But I was no longer the man who revolved around her. Seeing that I was serious about the divorce, she panicked. I didn't mean those things. I was just really angry. You didn't text or call me for a whole week. Before, it wouldn't even have been 7 hours, let alone 7 days. So I just got angrier and angrier. And the misunderstanding with your sister was because it was true. I had never neglected her before. I just never realized that in her eyes my affection was seen as me being clingy. Hearing her dare to bring up Isabel, a fresh wave of anger surged through me. You have the nerve to mention her? After we got home that day, I had asked my sister for the full story. My sister said she had told Victoria her identity, but Victoria refused to believe it. She even said there were many people with the surname Harrison in the world, and it didn't mean they were all my siblings. Then, without any reason, she started hitting her. I gripped the door frame tightly, veins bulging on my hands, trying hard to suppress the urge to slap her. Just then, my sister, seeing that I was taking a long time, came downstairs to check on me. Victoria's gaze went past me. The moment she saw my sister, she immediately knelt before her. She cried out to my sister, "Sister-in-law, I was wrong that day. I'm so sorry. Please, help me persuade your brother. Without him, how can I go on?" Victoria was calculating. She knew my sister was softer-hearted than me, and she knew that right now my sister was the only one I would listen to. But she had miscalculated this time. I would never let my sister get dragged into this mess again, nor would I care about any news related to her anymore. As I was telling my sister to go back inside, a figure suddenly rushed out from the crowd. He tried to pull Victoria up. Looking closely, I saw it was Ethan Carter. Chapter 10. Victoria, why are you kneeling to him? Is he even worthy? Then he turned to question me. You claim to love Victoria, but this is how you push her to the brink. A man forcing a woman to kneel and apologize to you. Have you no decency? Before I could even speak, Victoria was the one who shook off his hand. What are you doing here? Are you following me? Ethan's voice immediately softened. It's not like that. You haven't been answering my calls for days. I was just worried about you. Victoria ignored him, rushing to clarify her position to me. Sincere, look, I haven't been in contact with him recently. I truly know I was wrong, and I'll change this time. Believe me, Ethan couldn't stand seeing Victoria beg me and continued to interfere. He can take care of you, and so can I. I started clapping. Well, thank you. Please hurry up and convince her to divorce me. I'll be waiting for your good news. Ethan shot me a glare. Ignoring Victoria's struggles, he forcefully dragged her away from the villa. Even after they were far away, I could still faintly hear their argument. Did you just come here to ruin things for me? I was about to succeed. You said you loved me, didn't you? What, now that you've left Sincere, you can't survive? I shook my head helplessly. It wasn't my life that was falling apart, so it didn't matter to me how they fought. In less than a week, I received the signed divorce papers from Victoria. I don't know what sweet words Ethan used to coax her, but for me, it was all gain and no loss, and that was enough. Life gradually returned to normal. I went back to the company and focused on managing business affairs. My sister returned to school to continue her studies. She was a quick learner when it came to company business. With another 2 years of training, she would be able to stand on her own by the time she graduated. I just didn't expect that the peaceful days would last less than 3 months before being shattered by Victoria's reappearance. When she stopped me downstairs at the company, I was shocked by her haggard appearance. In just 3 months, she had lost a significant amount of weight. Her cheekbones protruded, her eyes were sunken, and she had 2 dark circles from obvious lack of sleep. Combined with her messy, tangled hair, she looked like a madwoman. "Aren't we divorced? What are you doing here?" Victoria's voice was filled with sobs. "Sincere, it wasn't me. I didn't want to divorce you. I was completely bewitched by that scoundrel Ethan Carter. He tricked me into signing the papers in a daze." From her story, I pieced together the tragic ordeal she had been through over the past 3 months. Chapter 11. In the first month after our separation, Victoria's life was actually manageable. She had the money she had saved from her hard work over the years. Plus, she had Ethan Carter, her first love, who could provide constant emotional support. Aside from some uncertainty about her future career, Victoria had little to worry about. Even that bit of uncertainty was dispelled by Ethan's casual remark, "If worst comes to worst, we'll start over. Don't worry, baby, I'll always be with you." She blindly regained her confidence, believing that once she got herself together, she could start a better life. Unfortunately, reality soon dealt her a heavy blow. Her mother, Margaret, had a pre-existing heart condition and had undergone heart bypass surgery 3 years ago, before Victoria and I were married. At that time, I helped arrange for the top hospital and doctors, and also contributed some money. I told Victoria that a powerful person I knew had pulled strings for the doctor, and the money was what I had earned from working several jobs day and night. Only then did I finally win the approval of her parents and get their permission to be with Victoria. After the surgery, Margaret needed expensive imported medication every month to maintain her condition. It was also around that time that, in order to help Victoria, I promoted her and gave her a substantial salary. Now, without an income, Victoria discussed with her mother the possibility of switching the imported medication to a cheaper domestic alternative. Margaret readily agreed, saying her body wasn't that fragile and she was willing to help ease her daughter's burden. However, after less than a week on the domestic medication, her heart condition flared up again, and she was hospitalized. This truly became a case of saving a little to spend a lot. The hospitalization fees, treatment costs, medication, and other miscellaneous expenses added up to several times the cost of the imported drugs. While she was overwhelmed with this, her father's small business also ran into trouble, likely because no one wanted to make an enemy of me. The Donovan family business suddenly found itself without support, and operations became difficult. Richard Donovan was worried about his wife's condition on one hand and the company on the other. At his age, his body couldn't take the strain. Half a month later, he also suffered a stroke and was hospitalized. In less than a month, Victoria's savings were almost completely wiped out. At this point, she had no mental energy to think about the future. Her only thought was to solve the immediate problems. She placed her last hope in Ethan Carter. She hoped he would, as he had promised, stand by her through thick and thin. But when she laid out the whole truth of her situation, Ethan couldn't even be bothered to pretend anymore. "Are you telling me you're broke now and you want me to help you earn money to save your parents? And your dad is a bottomless pit. The doctors said he'll likely be paralyzed for life." Victoria panicked. She desperately needed someone to be with her now, even if it was just to be there as a pillar of emotional support. But Ethan wasn't willing to waste even that much time on her. "Let's be honest, I'm already deep in debt myself. You want me to help you?" Not a chance with that. He left without a second glance. And from then on, he vanished from Victoria's world, completely unreachable. Victoria grabbed my hand as if it were a lifeline. Sincere, you're the only one who can help me now. For the sake of our many years together, can't you help me one last time? You called them Mom and Dad for so many years too. We were truly in love. You're not like that scoundrel Ethan. You can help me, right?" As she spoke, tears rolled down her cheeks. "I'll apologize to you. I'll apologize. I'm begging you, please save them." She raised her hand and slapped herself hard across the face. "I'll pay you back everything I owe you. I'll pay it back." I shook my head. "It's too late, Victoria. If you knew it would come to this, why did you do it in the first place? I'll say it again, we are no longer connected. If you continue to harass me, I will report you to the police." Victoria's hand gradually lost its strength and slid down my sleeve. She suddenly burst into loud, manic laughter. Ah ha ha. It's fate, it's all fate. She had completely lost her mind. After that day, I never heard any news about Victoria Donovan or the Donovan family again. After Victoria became paralyzed, I took care of her with unwavering dedication for 2 whole years. Everyone believed that the first thing she'd do once she could walk again was marry me. However, on the night of her successful surgery, when I asked her if she wanted to marry me, she hesitated. Her silence spoke volumes, and the disdain in her eyes was impossible to hide. I smiled faintly and said, "I understand." That very night I left without hesitation, taking an 8-figure bank card with me. "Do you still want to marry me?" I asked. Victoria was momentarily stunned when she heard this. She stared at her legs for a long time without saying a word. The noise from outside seeped through the slightly open door. Someone said, "The doctor said Victoria's surgery was a success. She should be back to normal in less than 2 weeks. I truly didn't think she'd recover. 2 years ago, she had nearly given up on herself. It's all thanks to Sincere's unwavering support. They're definitely going to get married, right? Better start preparing the wedding gift early." Hearing these joyous blessings, Victoria remained silent. The awkward atmosphere lingered in the air. Finally, I broke the silence by kneeling and massaging her calf as I had done for the past 2 years. I asked gently, "Is the pressure okay?" Only then did her tense body relax. I continued with my usual care, asking, "Does it feel uncomfortable?" She shook her head and seriously replied, "No, it feels good." Looking at my hands in a daze, I remembered how it all started. I didn't know how to massage at first, but Victoria, with her pride and dignity, refused to let any nurse touch her. Each time a nurse came, she would lose her temper and drive them out. Yet for her legs, massage was essential. So, I learned from the owner of a massage clinic for 3 months. I practiced on myself first before finally working up the courage to touch her legs. The first time I massaged her was while she was asleep. Her sleep was light, and she woke up to find me. Furious, she shouted, "Don't touch me, get your filthy hands off me, get out." I didn't leave. Following the technique I had learned, I continued pressing the acupoints. Her legs couldn't move, so she grabbed a pillow and threw it at my head. I remained unfazed. Then she started throwing anything she could reach at me. Finally, she hurled a photo frame. Inside the frame was a picture of her in college, holding a trophy in one hand and making a peace sign with the other, full of youthful vitality. Warm blood trickled down my forehead, and as she saw it, she tried to struggle toward me but was powerless because of her legs. In the end, she covered her face and suddenly began to sob. Through her tears, she choked out, "Leave. Just leave. There's no point in staying. I can't feel anything. No matter how much you press, it's useless." In those days, she wallowed in self-pity. Rain or shine, I came to her house every day to help her with her therapy. Until one day, her mother, Olivia, discovered that she had tried to overdose on sleeping pills. Olivia rushed her to the hospital in a panic. Desperate, Olivia didn't know what to do. I knelt before Victoria and said, "Look at me." Obediently, she looked at me. I said, "Everything will be okay. Trust me." At that moment, even I didn't know where my confidence came from. From that day on, I moved into their home. Olivia cried while thanking me repeatedly. "Thank goodness for you," she said. She hesitated, and I knew what she wanted to ask, so I said, "As long as Victoria doesn't chase me away, I'll stay by her side." But the truth was, even when she did try to chase me away, I didn't leave. There were times when the massages seemed to make no progress. In frustration, she shouted, "Get out, all of you, get out." By then, she was already in a wheelchair. Her bedroom was a wreck, with things smashed everywhere. The good thing was, she finally stopped targeting me with her outbursts. Once her tantrum subsided, I approached her again and repeated, "Victoria, trust me. I said this phrase over and over for 2 years. Gradually, she began to feel sensations in her legs. Slowly, she was able to perform simple movements. Until yesterday, when the surgery finally took place, the doctors were astonished, saying the operation was a great success. If all went well, she'd be able to stand again. Olivia, upon hearing the news, handed me a credit card. I stared at it absent-mindedly. These 2 years I hadn't done all of this for a card. Victoria's friends all jokingly called me bro, but the truth was, I hadn't even confessed my feelings to her, let alone defined any sort of relationship. Victoria had once said to me, "Sincere, when my legs recover, I want to marry you immediately." That was during her first round of therapy when the doctor had gently expressed regret about her prognosis. I pushed her home, and as soon as we got inside, she broke down. The once unattainable high achiever had suddenly fallen off her pedestal. It would have been hard for anyone to accept. I held her tightly as she bit into my shoulder, so deep and so hard that the scar remains to this day. When she saw the blood, she snapped back to reality and frantically apologized. I'm sorry," she said. After apologizing as I massaged her like usual, she uttered those words. Then she asked me, "Sincere, do you secretly like me?" I didn't deny it. I looked at her and said, "Yes." She stared at me for a long time before saying she wanted to marry me. But everything I did wasn't for some kind of trade-off. I just wanted her to feel the same way I felt. I hoped that one day she could genuinely fall for me too. Now, as I stood up and rubbed the medicine into my hands to warm it, I began to massage her calf again. I knew she was watching me. After a long silence, her voice broke through. She said softly, "Sin, you don't have to do this anymore." My hands paused, but I still finished the massage. Tilting my head up, I asked her once more, unwilling to give up, "Victoria, do you still want to marry me?" She hesitated to speak, but ultimately remained silent. I could only laugh at my own wishful thinking. After all, we've been together every day for so many years, and I've secretly loved her for just as long. How could I not have foolish hopes? I stood up and washed the medicinal ointment off my hands. From outside the bathroom door, she finally spoke, "Sincere, you're like a brother to me." A sharp pang shot through my head. I rubbed my temples hard and replied, "Please don't say things like that. It's too cruel for me to hear." When I pushed open the bathroom door and stepped out, the living room was still bustling with chatter. I glanced at Victoria, then struggled to pull a little box from my pocket and casually tossed it into the nearby trash can. I knew that ring was never worth much, certainly not enough to match her status, but I'd still clung to the foolish hope of proposing to her someday. Even though it pained me, I had lied to myself again and again, thinking the right time just hadn't come yet. But now, as I finally threw it away, I felt a strange sense of relief. A part of me regretted not discarding it sooner. Victoria noticed my movement, her gaze flickering for a brief moment. She seemed like she wanted to say something, but I waved her off and ushered her toward the door. The moment we stepped out, the friends in the living room swarmed around us. Someone teased, "Hey, what private little secrets were you two whispering about in there? Not even letting us in on it." Another chimed in, "Don't worry, we won't mess with you today. We'll save that for your wedding." Others joined in, saying, "Let's hang out for a bit longer and then we'll leave." Victoria's close friends, as considerate as she was, had all brought juice and light snacks since she was still recovering from surgery. One of them asked cheerfully, "Victoria, once you're better, let's go skiing together." "How about Titlis Mountain?" Victoria nodded lightly without saying much. Her friend turned to me with a playful smile and said, "Bro, you'll have to come along to look after Victoria." Victoria lifted her head and passed the question to me. After being rejected twice in a row, even someone as shameless as me still had a shred of pride. I said, "You guys can go without me." But then Victoria spoke up unexpectedly. "We can all go together. After all, I see you as an older brother." Her words landed like a bomb. The room fell into an awkward silence. One of her friends laughed and playfully poked her cheek. "Victoria, what kind of joke is that?" The tension was quickly diffused as others chimed in. "Her legs just healed. Her brain must still be foggy. Don't take it seriously, bro." The comment was brushed aside amidst the laughter, but Victoria remained silent the entire time. I thought back to a conversation I'd had with an old friend years ago. He had asked me, "Sincere, are you sure about this? Someone like her, a wealthy heiress. She's from a completely different world than ours. If she were a normal person, would she even consider marrying you?" At the time, I didn't dare answer, and even now, I still couldn't. Until Victoria gave me her answer, no, she wouldn't. The gathering's atmosphere remained light-hearted, with soft music playing and everyone reminiscing about the past. I lowered my head and searched for Titlis Mountain on my phone. It wasn't a well-known place, but it was a famous ski destination in the area. That was when I truly understood what it meant to be from different worlds. I stood up, and Victoria's gaze immediately followed me. I returned to the bedroom and made a call to the woman who had tearfully thanked me 2 years ago. Rubbing my hands together, I asked, "Aunt, about that bank card of yours." She seemed eager to bring it up before I could even finish my sentence. "7 figures, take it all. Thank you for looking after Victoria these past 2 years." I let out a heavy M&M in response. There wasn't much for me to pack. I tossed my few belongings into the trash can, grabbed the bank card, and left. On my way through the living room, one of the rich kids asked, "Sin, heading out so late? Where are you off to?" Not wanting to make Victoria uncomfortable, I smiled and said, "Just hungry. Going out to grab a bowl of noodles." They started joking about ordering takeout, but I waved them off. Takeout from places you guys like costs hundreds of dollars. Not worth it. Victoria seemed to realize something. She stared at me, unblinking. I gave a casual wave to everyone and said, "I'm off." At 1 in the morning, I walked away from the place I'd lived in for 2 years with nothing but a bank card in my pocket. At least I had found a way to move on. No more staying by Victoria's side, no more worrying about her sudden emotional breakdowns. My body, finally free of tension, felt strangely out of place. I couldn't sleep, so I sat on the balcony, nursing a beer and gazing at the sparse stars in the sky. In the silence of the night, I began to listen to my own thoughts. I had assumed I would feel sad, even heartbroken, but I didn't. I simply opened another bottle of beer, touched the scar on my shoulder, and wondered how much longer it would take to fade. That night, all I felt was the cool breeze and the brightness of the stars above. Victoria called me the next morning, just before dawn. When I picked up, there was nothing but silence on her end. Eventually, I broke it by asking, "What's up?" Hesitantly, she spoke sincere. "I was wondering, could you make those shrimp dumplings for me?" After her accident left her paralyzed from the waist down, she had refused to eat. No matter how many famous chefs prepared food for her, she kept her mouth shut. I didn't coddle her. If she didn't want to eat, then she wouldn't get anything at all. Instead, I ate Cantonese dim sum right in front of her. By the 3rd day, she finally gave in and begged me to let her try a shrimp dumpling. After that, she only wanted the ones I made, so I learned how to cook them. But yesterday's events were still fresh in my mind. Her silence lingered with me. Calmly, I replied, "Victoria, I'm gone now." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I didn't know what else to say, so I simply hung up. There was an astounding amount of money left in my bank account. I stared at the zeros, dumbfounded, counting them over and over again, still unable to believe it. Carefully storing the bank card away, I finally understood what my friend had meant when she said, "She's not from the same world as us." It was true. My parents were just ordinary people. They knew I was taking care of my paralyzed girlfriend and even came to visit me. Back then, Olivia was exceptionally hospitable. My parents felt out of place. After we returned home, my dad said to me, "If it doesn't work out, let it go. We're not a good match anyway." It was only now, 2 years later, that I began to understand Olivia's actions. The extravagant dishes she served were so luxurious that even Victoria was surprised, not to mention my parents, who had come from a small county. Olivia's hospitality wasn't just warm, it was deliberate, making it clear to my parents that we weren't from the same world. With the card in hand, I decided to buy a new house. Not a single zero disappeared from the balance. The next few weeks were a blur of renovations and errands. Half a month later, I ran into Victoria at a cafe near my new place. She was sitting with her friends, who teased her loudly. "Victoria, if Sincere leaves, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Go after him. Another friend chimed in. Sincere's been sweet-talking you for years. Just apologize and act a little cute, it's not that hard. Someone else joked, I'll just call him bro and be done with it. Victoria hadn't been out for 2 years. Her skin was pale, almost dazzling in the sunlight. Hearing her friend's half-serious, half-joking remarks, she tugged at the corner of her lips and replied vaguely, If Sincere shows up